A young Jewish teenager named Hannah sees that her cousin, Rivka, is suffering from a cough. They are working in the Nazi concentration camps when suddenly the German guards single out Rivka to be taken to the gas chambers. Hannah quickly comes up with a plan and switches places with her cousin. The Nazi guards do not realize that Hannah is about to sacrifice herself to save Rivka. It all starts in the late 1990s in a tattoo parlor in New York where a young Jewish teenager named Hannah Stern is hanging around with her friends. The girls are talking about their plans for the weekend and someone mentions there is a party that they can attend. Hannah's friends also urge her to get a tattoo, but she cannot make up her mind. Eventually, she realizes she cannot afford to get what she wants and drops the idea altogether. Shortly afterwards, Hannah begrudgingly bids her friends goodbye and drives back home. It turns out that the teenager is headed home early as she has to attend her aunt's Seder, a traditional Jewish ritual. She reaches her home after a short while, but it is clear that she doesn't actually want to go to her aunt's. Her parents force her to wear a modest blue dress and command her to get ready quickly. Irritated, Hannah asks why she must go to such functions. Her mother replies that she must attend the Seder because it is important but refuses to expand on it. After everyone is ready, the Stern family drives to their destination. Hannah quickly disembarks their car, clearly still irritated that she was forced to come. As she is entering her aunt's house, she sees a young good-looking man dressed in traditional Jewish attire. Shortly afterwards, the Sterns enter the party and are greeted by the host, Eva. She is a woman who appears to be in her early 60s and has a particular affinity with young Hannah. It is revealed that Hannah was named after one of Eva's closest cousins, the late Kana Abramowitz. Every time the aunt and niece meet, Eva reminds the teenager how much she looks like Hannah. However, it is obvious that Hannah is bored of hearing the same thing over and over again. She puts up a facade of being interested and asks her aunt to tell her more about this cousin of hers. Aunt Eva, on the other hand, seems visibly distressed as soon anyone mentions Hannah. Eva knows that the time she grew up in is vastly different from the time that the teenager was raised. In fact, she knows Hannah would be bored by her stories from the Nazi concentration camps. Thus, she prefers not to say anything because the teenager's reaction might hurt her. As the party goes on, Hannah feels more and more isolated. Everyone is caught up in their own groups talking about finance and their personal lives. Some of the relatives try to talk to her, telling her about their time in Nazi concentration camps. An old uncle talks about a time when some young Jew prisoners tried to escape the concentration camp. Sadly, they were simply walking into a trap and were later killed for their transgressions. Another old uncle tells her about the arithmetic book, where the Nazi guards would write down how many Jews were to be added and how many to be eliminated. However, the teenager is utterly disinterested in knowing any of this. She cuts everyone short and tries to move on from the interaction. Then the Seder begins, and everyone gets busy with the traditional rituals. The older members talk about the importance of knowing where the Jewish people came from and what they suffered. Prayers are recited by every member except for Hannah, who seems to be disinterested. In fact, she is happy that she gets to drink wine. She even tells her Aunt Eva that she is loaded, referring to the fact that she is starting to get drunk. Eva, on the other hand, is fascinated how this young teenager sounds exactly like her cousin. Moreover, the rituals revolve around the Jewish exodus from Egypt and how they were helped by a prophet named Elijah. Eva asks her to open the door to allow the entrance of Elijah, a standard ritual. The latter reluctantly agrees to do so and approaches the front door. However, something really strange happens as Hannah reaches the front of the house. A bright light gleams through the passageway and she is transported back in time. The teenager doesn't realize that she is now in Poland during the 1940s. She is confused as only a few moments ago it was pitch dark outside. Now, it seems to be morning and the whole house is completely changed. Hannah is now in a kitchen where two young girls, one of whom is around her age, are kneading dough. Confused, Hannah asks the women who they are. The two, on the other hand, seem to know Hannah. The elder one asks her to sit down, but Hannah asks where her parents are. This is when the younger woman reveals that Hannah's parents are dead due to typhus fever. Refusing to believe this, Hannah says she wants to go back to her home in New York. The two women have no idea where that is and claim that Hannah is from Lublin, Poland. Following this, the younger woman introduces herself as cousin Rivka and says the other woman is her Aunt Mina. They further explain that Hannah woke up from a long sleep as she had gotten very sick in the past few days. Rivka takes the teenager to her bedroom and asks her to lie down. Hannah obliges, but she can tell something weird has happened to her. She also gets a feeling that she has seen Rivka somewhere before. The next morning, when Hannah awakens, Rivka arrives in her room. The latter asks the teenager to get ready for a wedding. For one moment, Hannah thinks she might now be forced to get married. But, Rivka explains that they have to prepare for the wedding of her friends, Leah and Shmuel. Rivka then shows the dress that she has picked out for Hannah, but the latter can't hide her disgust. She even says that the dress doesn't match her fashion sense. Rather cheekily, Rivka asks if Hannah goes to the market regularly. Hannah replies that she does hang out by the mall quite often. Nonetheless, both the girls get ready and head out of the house. Rivka wants to show her cousin their beautiful neighborhood. They walk out of the house and Hannah finally realizes that she is in a different country altogether. Rivka then takes her through their Polish ghetto, an old but homely place named Janub. Hannah realizes that this is the same place that one of her uncles always talks about. Elsewhere in the same village, young Shmuel anxiously gets ready for his wedding. His friends are waiting outside and seem to be equally excited for the event. Shmuel finally comes out after quite some time getting ready and his friends tease him for it. They boys then head towards the house of the bride, encouraging their groom friend not to be nervous. In the meantime, Rivka and Hannah walk through the market of Janub. They are looking around when they suddenly notice a bunch of young boys nearby. Among this group is a handsome man named Ariel, the son of the local Rebbe. Hannah doesn't realize it, but this is the boy that was present right outside Aunt Eva's house in New York. It is obvious that the two have some chemistry between them. Soon afterwards, the two friends enter a local photo booth. Hannah is surprised to see how primitive the process of taking photos looks like. The photographer assures her that his camera is the latest one in town. But Hannah, who still can't comprehend the timeline she is in, says her father has a Nikon. She and Rivka get their photo taken, which they will come back to take after the wedding. Outside the photo booth, Hannah meets Rivka's friends, Miriam and Esther. The two girls ask if Hannah has ever seen moving pictures, and the latter replies that she goes to the movies almost every week. Moments later, they attend the traditional unveiling of the bride, inspired by the story of Jacob. They see the bride, who is talking to a heavily pregnant woman whose baby is due at Hanukkah. At the wedding, Rivka tells Hannah about the ceremonial chuppah, a canopy under which the marriage takes place. The rabbi overlooking the marriage turns out to be Ariel's father. Everyone is happy and the ceremony goes as smoothly as possible. But things start to take a turn for the worse pretty soon when a small group of Nazis march on the village. This is when Hannah finally realizes the severity of the matter. She asks the date and Rivka says it is October of 1941, making Hannah realize that it is almost the beginning of the Second World War. She tries to warn her cousin and inform her of what's about to happen, but nobody takes her seriously. Shortly afterwards, the Nazis' convoy crashes the wedding right after Leah is officially married to Shmuel. The German commandant informs the Polish Jews that they are all to be relocated. He even assures them that if they comply with his orders, nobody will be harmed. The poor rabbi tries to discuss the matter with the commandant, but the latter is in no mood to do so. In fact, everyone is hurled into a truck which is headed to an unknown location. As if this wasn't enough, the Nazis also torch down the synagogue just as Rivka and Hannah are put inside a truck. Hannah wonders whether knowing what is about to happen is a curse. The trucks then head towards their destination and we see several characters huddled together. The bride and groom promise never to be separated. On the other hand, Hannah meets the rabbi's son, Ariel. Eventually, in the middle of the night, Hannah and the other Jews arrive at a concentration camp. The commandant once again reiterates the same message. If they cooperate, no one will be harmed. He tells the Jews that his men will come to them one by one and strip them of their valuables. It is obvious that the commandant is much more evil than he actually lets out. Upon hearing this, panic breaks out among the crowd and everyone starts screaming. The rabbi then speaks for everyone, asking to talk to the commandant privately. The latter smirks evilly and says there is no need to go to private to talk as the German soldiers are friends and not enemies. The rabbi then says there is no need for violence and promises that everyone will voluntarily give up their jewels and whatever valuables they have. In return, he only wants an assurance that no one will be hurt. The evil commandant says that if they later find anything valuable with the prisoners, the rabbi will be severely punished. Following this, the Jews are manhandled and their valuables are taken away for safekeeping. As if to hammer the humiliation, the Nazi woman guards round up all the women in one place. They are stripped of their clothes and their hair is chopped off against their wishes. The guards then push and shove them into wooden barns, yelling that Jews cannot be fancy anymore. Shortly afterwards, they are ordered to dress in rags, and get numbers tattooed on their arms. Every detail about the Jews is written down and recorded, which is later given to the main command. Back at the main office, the commandant relays this information to his senior. He reveals that he has received 880 men, 70 women and 13 kids below the age of 10 in his camp. The senior seems more interested in the number of Jews who have been terminated in this camp. The commandant replies that he has eliminated 123 prisoners since the senior's last visit. Obviously, the commandant is trying to win the approval of his senior, but the latter remains unmoved. The senior even chastises the commandant for allowing the rabbi to embarrass him in public. Outside, all the prisoners are made to stand in line in front of bright lights. They are sleepy, tired and hungry, but the Nazis torture them by making them stand straight. Then, while the Nazis party, the Jews are crammed into a tiny sleeping room. It is a barn with dorm-styled bunks where people have to sleep on top of each other. A senior woman tells everyone to make do and also make space for kids. The next day, Nazis arrive early in the morning and tell the Jews to eat. They remind them that they were brought here to work and those who don't eat will die. Hannah and Rivka try to eat their food, with Hannah taking Sarah, a young parentless girl, under her wing. Later, they are sent to the field to dig ditches. Hannah speaks with Leah about her beautiful wedding. Meanwhile, one woman, Yetta, tries to hide the fact that she is pregnant. Later, during the rainy night, Hannah speaks with Ariel about how she doesn't even know where she came from anymore. Then Ariel asks Hannah on a date. The next day, Commandant Krieger tells the Jews that the rabbi thinks typhus may be spreading in their camp. Many Jews are inspected and those suspected of infection are taken away. Later, Ariel learns that his mother and sisters were among those removed. That night, Rivka asks Hannah to tell her a story about the future. Hannah speaks about how some Jews will survive, eventually settling down to normal, safe lives in America. Though the Jews don't exactly believe Hannah, they enjoy listening to her imaginative tales of the future, as well as her rendition of The Wizard of Oz. The next morning, Ariel is warned that Jews are being taken to the gas chamber. Later, Hannah asks Ariel to teach her how to pray before he gives her a special gift. Then Rivka tells Hannah that Ariel is planning an escape, jogging an old memory in Hannah. Hannah tries to recall what her uncle Abe told her about the escape. Hannah goes to warn the rabbi that Ariel is being set up by a guard, Hans. That night, Ariel pays off Hans while Hannah tries to make sense of their current situation. The next day, Hannah tries to stop Ariel from going through with his plan, but he refuses to relent. That night, Yetta struggles in giving birth, while at the same time, Ariel and some others attempt their escape. Ultimately, Yetta has a healthy daughter, while Ariel is captured and summarily beaten. The next day, Ariel and his fellow conspirators are hanged as those in the camp are forced to watch. Hannah is left distraught by Ariel's death, discussing her feelings with Rivka. Rivka claims that Hannah's stories are keeping them alive. Then, Krieger comes by, taking away Yetta and her baby, despite Rivka's cries. As their festival, Passover, approaches, Hannah asks the rabbi if they can have a Seder, but he thinks that is an impossibility. However, Hannah is able to secure some flour to prepare the matzah. The guards consider shooting Hannah, but Rivka is able to talk them out of it. Rivka tells Hannah that they must fight to stay alive so that they may tell others what they have witnessed. That night, with the matzah ready, an ailing Rivka tells Hannah that she will take the name Eva if she should survive. Then, the Jews hold a secret Seder, following all of their traditions. Finally, the Seder reaches the point where the door is to be opened for Elijah, and yet again, Hannah is chosen to do the honors, bringing Sarah along. However, when she opens the door she finds a furious Krieger. The next day, Krieger starts taking away Jews that can't be used for labor. Hannah worries that the sick, coughing Rivka will be among those selected for the gas chamber. Hannah tricks the guards into taking her away instead. Once her group has been stripped naked, Hannah enters the chamber where Zyklon B is released on the screaming group. Then Hannah wakes up, back in the present, surrounded by her family. Finally alone with Eva, Hannah mentions that she knows that Eva was once called Rivka. Eva acknowledges her past, wondrous at how Hannah has obtained such knowledge. Now gathered again with the others around the table, Hannah joins in the festivities and vows that she will remember always.